Welcome back to the Rue Speaks podcast, where I talk to you about all things pop culture, things that are happening, and just really just give you an update on all things fun. Listen, I had a chai latte and I'm just like waiting for it. Waiting for it to kick in, and I'm trying to record this before I start work, and also like this room is insanely hot. So bear with me. Hi guys. How are you? If you didn't know, this is going to be a podcast that comes out Monday through Friday, so you get your daily, weekday pop culture content. Okay, so what's been going on? The Olympics. So we know about Simone Biles, we know about the USA team taking gold, but there was a former teammate, Michaela Skinner, who had like made comments about the gymnastics team and basically saying that like they're not as tough as they used to be and basically called them like lazy and stuff. So, when the US Olympic team won, specifically with Simone Biles posted the most amazing, and I mean amazing, like basically response to Michaela, okay? And she said, lack of talent, lazy Olympic champions. To literally clap back at that former person. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of got them mixed up because I was like, wait, Michaela Maroney, who was also on the Olympic team, you know her from doing this thing with her nose. She also been like body shamed in the past, which I think is ridiculous. But I was like, wait, is homegirl like she saying that about like Simone Biles? But it wasn't her. And then Simone Biles like was like, F around and find out, having to like defend her first name, which is true because I'm sure people like me would have thought it was her. I think that this was an amazing response because it's like, I feel like Simone Biles is consistently having to prove herself, whether it's her hair, her husband, just everything, even though she's like one of the most talented gymnasts that we have seen. And the fact that she is black, like she is doing these acrobatics every single time, and every single time she's having to prove herself, which is unfortunate. We saw that with like Coco Gauff as well. It's just really frustrating, especially because like when the Olympics happens in other countries, and a lot of times in those countries we face racism, which is it's so frustrating. Because people will be like, "Oh my gosh, go to Paris, you're accepted," and I have seen people saying Paris is like really racist. So the fact that Olympians are constantly having to speak up for themselves, especially like Black Olympians, it's just like really frustrating that we're still having to deal with this. But I just think the way that Coco and Simone and other Olympians have been handling it has been amazing. Um, Another thing about the Olympics, people are sleeping on ooh, oh. People have been sleeping on cardboard beds. These are Olympians. Like they are eating the top tier food. They need to make sure that their body is peak condition. And now I'm starting to wonder whoever set this up. Now, if it's everybody, then I'm like, but if it's certain people, I feel like that's putting people at a disadvantage. Because think about it this way, okay? So like right now, I sleep on a twin bed. I'm also 30, so I wake up with pains in my shoulder, in my back. But imagine sleeping on cardboard. It's not even like you're sleeping in a sleeping bag underneath the stars, which is where I truly get like the best sleep. Crazy. Going camping in a sleeping bag, in a tent, underneath the stars. Best sleep ever. No, they're sleeping on cardboard tent or they are sleeping on cardboard, and it's like, is a sabotage. Has it always been like this? Or is it because there was a Paris bed bug thing that happened and they're trying to avoid that? And cardboard beds allow that. But if that is the case, then what about like the sheets and stuff? So like people are getting their own mattresses brought in, rightfully so, which is like great. But I just think that's wild. Also, there's one person who's like, I'm here to find love. And I'm like, how many like Olympic hookups are happening? Like, do you ever think about that? Do you ever wonder, like, you put all of these like top tier athletes in one place? It's literally like if you're going to speech and debate camp. I mean, I would go to speech and debate camp, and when I tell you, like, after you went to like your finals and stuff, after you went to your rounds, like, it was just like a giant party afterwards. Like, it was a giant party. So I can only imagine. I mean, it's like Nick Jonas explained that like the DCC games, which Disney Channel games where everybody would like come together, was literally just like a like Love Island on steroids. And I can imagine there's a bunch of like athletes, but then okay, but then you probably don't want to because like you want to be in the right space, but I'm like I bet those closing ceremonies, those parties, people are getting it on. Okay, people are getting it on. And I just want to know, has anybody ever met at the Olympics and then they get together and then it's like Olympics love story? I don't know. Just thinking. So I was scrolling through TikTok and I am so behind on the news, but somebody was like posting Tasha from The Bachelorette and Luke from Summer House, aka Winter House, and saying she's so happy with him. And I said, wait, what? I'm sorry, but Tasha Adams and Luke have been, I think that's her last name. Luke have supposedly been dating since March. This is the most random pairing for me. Um, I will admit the toxic side of me is like, yeah, he's hot. Like, he's so hot. But I just know that he's like toxic. There's a lot of things with Luke. Also, he dated Ashley Darby. He dated Ashley Darby. And now he's like dating Tasha. And I'm like, this is like a weird thing. And then I was looking and apparently he's a real estate agent and I'm like, didn't he do like something outdoorsy, something woodsy, and now he's like a real estate agent slash model? And dating Tasha. I just feel like that's the most random pairing. But hey, if she is happy, then I am happy. But truly, that is literally the most random pairing that I could even think up. But apparently they're dating. Again, it was still weird to me that him and Jason were dating Giselle and Ashley. It just felt like pretty much like just needing a storyline. But then I always forget that Ashley's kind of young. Like when she first started Real Housewives of Potomac, she was 24. 24, married to old man Michael Darby. And, she brought light. She brought light. She brought craziness. But then I'm always having to remember, like, she started off so young. So she's probably like in her 30s now. And Luke, I think, is like in his 30s. So that makes sense. But what didn't make sense was Giselle and Jason from Winter House. I still have a vendetta against Jason because I slid in his DMs like right after probably the first season of Winter House and like we DM'd a little bit, but like he didn't ask me out and I was like, hello, like why are you not asking me out? But that's like neither here nor there, okay? But it happens. In other news, Jax Taylor is seeking mental health treatment. Good for him. Good for Jax. But I just remember the time that he got into therapy, and his therapy was like basically telling him he did nothing wrong. And then just like the other times therapy, and I'm like, does this have to do with the valley, or is he actually getting help? Like, I want Jax Taylor to get the help that he needs. I want Brittany to get away from him. But it also, part of me is like, is this another storyline? Is this another storyline? But I have nothing to say. I want somebody to be able to go on their mental health journey. It's well deserved. But again, past history, it usually is like a storyline. Like I remember him and Brittany, all she wanted was for him to go to therapy. Like that was like her like main thing, and to like be nice to her, which I think the minute you start telling somebody, please be nice to me, the relationship is over. It's like when you're like, hey, can we just have one good day? Yeah, I remember that. Is this on? I remember saying to my ex, can we just have one good day together? And I feel like that should have been a sign that we were done, on top of the fact that he was a raging alcoholic and had a lot of issues. But you know, to be young and dumb and in love, I have learned. But yeah, so Jax, Brittany wanted Jax to go to therapy. Like, that was her main thing. And then once she moves out, then he's like, I'm going to therapy. Like, I finally made the appointment. And she's like, You made the appointment? Like, you're going to therapy? He didn't even go to the therapy appointment because he said it was too far. He said it was all the way in Malibu. Like, what? He said it was all the way in Malibu, and so he wasn't able to make it. So that's why I'm like, is this just like another stunt? We shall see. And then there's House of the Dragon news. Okay, so there was a leak that happened for the season finale of season 2. I have yet to see it yet. I'm like always weary of leaks, because especially when people are like, here are the link, I'm like, are you going to give me like a virus or something? But allegedly it was leaked, the finale. And they are stating that it has been confirmed. Now, this is all alleged. Allegedly, Daenerys is now the prince that was promised, which I think would be the stupidest thing ever. Okay, listen, I watched Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones was like top TV for me. House of the Dragon, I'm a little behind on because I feel like we're lacking the characterization and lines and the real care for the characters that is needed, okay? And should have been established by season 2. But there's a whole theory of the prince that was promised, and like you believe that like that's gonna be the one who like saves Westeros, saves them, and you know, like the sword and everything, and you assume it had been building up. Jon Snow was the prince that was promised, okay? You find out he has Targaryen blood, all of this stuff. And so it's all just kind of leading up to this, made him a main character. And then, of course, in the last season of Game of Thrones, Arya was the one who really killed the Night King, which didn't make sense and was like with the Valyrian dagger steel. And Arya was the one who like killed the Night Prince. And so it's like, what was the whole point of this? Because we thought it was Jon Snow. What was this leading up to? And if they're saying that it's Daenerys is the one, then I'm just going to call BS and be like, this is just lazy. It's lazy writing. If this dog does not stop, my neighbor has a bunch of German Shepherds and they just bark all day. I don't even know if that's picking it up, but if it is, I am so sorry. So yeah, now they're saying that she is the prince that was promised, and because it's in Valerian doesn't have like he or she, and I don't know, it doesn't make sense because she did like barely anything, and then she went like crazy in the end, and I was like, the writing got lazy on the last few episodes of Game of Thrones, and it just doesn't make sense. And I'm like, George R. R. Martin, can you just come out here and say, can you just, first of all, can you finish the book? Like I was talking to my brother, it should not take that long. We have been waiting so long for this like finale, and to know, because the writers, George R. R. Martin, like the writers that he kind of like gave them the reins of Game of Thrones, just like really threw it in the trash and just was like, I'm gonna do what I want. Which kind of reminds me of Bridgerton. If you guys didn't know, the whole Michael Michaela thing, which I have nothing against that. I just feel like the writers were using their own narrative and there was no build up to it and it just didn't make sense. Same as Game of Thrones. And that also leads me back to House of the Dragon. If they decide that Daenerys was the prince that was promised, again, it just feels lazy. And George is an executive producer on this. So, I'm like, okay, he's an executive producer, so wouldn't he say something about this? But maybe he stepped back, just like he stepped back after the Red Wedding of Game of Thrones. Also, like, Blood and Cheese, that episode I heard was like very anticlimactic. I don't know. So that is what has been happening in the pop culture TV world. Again, if that is confirmed, I'm gonna be like super upset because like, why would you do that? Why? In other news, I discovered a new book. It's about Persephone and Hades, and let's just say I devoured that book. It's called A Touch of Darkness in one day. One day. I am obsessed. So I just like, I need a new book to read. So if you guys can let me know what's a good book to read, because I have this tendency to read one book and just devour it in a day. And if you tell me to read It Ends With Us, do not tell me to read It Ends With Us. I've read It Ends With Us, okay? It Ends With Us needs a trigger warning on that book, okay? I feel like nobody really warned me for what I was going to read. Um, and yeah, it was great, but it just felt like very traumatic. Like a lot was happening, and I was like, there's no trigger warning. So the fact that they made it into a movie, first of all, with Blake Lively, I will say, Jenny Slate being the sister, I could totally see that. Just Justin Baldoni as Ryle, not like super as Ryle, I guess. We'll see. I don't know. Justin Baldoni, I haven't really seen him in like these serious roles, and I feel like Ryle, you really have to be like serious for that. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Blake Lively, I just didn't picture her in this, so we shall see. But that's just like a really intense book. So if anybody else has any ideas on what I should read, please let me know. Um, A Court of Thorns and Roses, I've read like that whole series. Fourth Wing, read that whole series. So excited for January. But yeah, just like I'm in a show hole, I am now in a book hole. So if anybody can let me know, please do. Yeah, so I'm feeling great. The caffeine has kicked in. I'm going to end this episode here. Yeah, so I will be back tomorrow with all of your pop culture needs. Be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and let me know what did you think of this episode.